And then the other ways, if you were a mosquito, I always see it like that when they ask me, if I was a mosquito, you know, if I have a bunch of stagnant water in containers in somebody's backyard, and then, you know, I lay my eggs, I go through my larval stages in the water and pupate, and then become an adult, and I have kids, dogs, and then I take my blood meal, go back to those containers to lay my eggs. I wouldn't leave either, you know.
Because they have everything they need.
Yeah, they have everything they need. And, you know, we also have plants and flowers. So, you know, they also take some nectar from those plants too. So there's really no motivation, because there's another thing. I don't want to get into much detail, but there are literature showing Aedes aegypti, you know, flew a mile away when there's no, you know, resources or you know, something to get.
They've been around for millions of years. They got
Correct.
it figured out.
So they figured it out. So if there's not any, you know, stressor like that, there's no need to go out. They don't even go up in, you know, in Miami. And if you look at our historic average, which goes back to the reports that I generate to 2016, I haven't seen anything less than 3,000.
3,000 what?
Service requests. It could be emails, calls, but that's when we really get overwhelmed, because we have 26 inspectors. 2 of them works the night shift, who are doing the nighttime larva sighting. It's our proactive larva sighting program. And then we have 24 individuals just taking care of all the calls or areas that are flooded. But if you get 5,000 calls in 1 month, you know.
Could you get that many? Is that
we do. In 2020, I remember by heart. In 2020, we had over 5,000 calls in June, which with the strong team we have, we got overwhelmed.
So it's 5,000. We live in a town of, depending on how you measure, between 2.5 and 3.3 million people. We have over 1 million residents. I think that includes condos. And do people that live downtown with all their buildings, do they have is there a mosquito issue there?
Yeah, we do have mosquito issues there too. But usually we get high numbers of the mosquitoes that their larvae, it can be found in the storm drains. So we pretty much know when the numbers go up, we send a team and they treat the storm drains.
Okay. So let's talk about if somebody's going to go out for the weekend, or maybe during after work, what can they do to their body or their clothes to limit the amount of biting?
Yeah, we always say drain and cover. And drain part is, maybe we'll talk later, but the cover is all about covering yourself. I know it's very difficult to wear long sleeve shirts and long pants with the heat, but if you're concerned about mosquito bites, that is the first thing that you can do. And I am very fond of using repellents. I use myself. I use it on my kids, because before you can call and ask for service for mosquito control, the first thing I can do, the first line of defense is myself. So in my little backpack when I'm walking, I always have my repellent, and I start seeing the adults. I start whatever part of my body is not covered, I apply repellents.
So if people are going to be in their yards when it cools off, we'll probably be back doing that. In the backyard, there are a lot of mosquitoes in a lot of places, lots of times hiding in the bushes. So, and one of the functions, or one of the 2 functions of mosquitoes, is to eat and have babies, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, they're not going to school too much. So what happens to a mosquito after they lay a zillion eggs? By the way, how many eggs might a female mosquito lay at any given time?
Again, it depends on the species, but if I say around 200, it wouldn't be wrong.
And how many live to be a couple days old out of the couple hundred?
Again, I keep repeating it, but it's, again, based on the species, but probably 60 to 80% of the eggs will hatch.
Wow. And so, and the female mosquito keeps laying eggs until she dies. That's its big function. How often can they lay eggs?
It's a little bit of process. After they take the blood meal, they go rest somewhere to digest. So that takes few days depending on the temperature. And then they lay their eggs. After they lay their eggs, they can go back and get another blood meal. Usually we see 2 to 3 blood meals max, especially with high temperature. Mosquitoes, very dainty, very small organisms. They don't like too much dry and hot weather, so their life span goes down a little bit too.
And so how long do they live typically?
Very, very dependent on the temperature. If it's very hot and you don't get rainfall, which will create some humid weather, maybe 2, tops 3 weeks. They don't leave too long.
So we have a baby mosquito that's hatched. Where do they, when they're little tiny critters, they're more susceptible to all sorts of stuff until they're sort of independent. Where do they go during that time as they're infants, if you will, out of their 3-week lifespan? Do they like just start flying around, or do they hide out in the bushes or in some water, or near some water?
So the first 24 hours, they do tend to hide because they don't have color. They're very soft. Their wings needs to harden too. So they do hide because they're very, very vulnerable during that time. So they hide a little bit, until they are ready to fly.
So let's talk about how smart the mosquitoes have become, all right? They don't lay eggs in the water, but near the water. Is that correct? Oh, they could. They could.
They do tend to sense where the predators are, and they avoid, the water that they feel that there are predators there, which is, pretty interesting.
So is that why we don't find mosquito eggs in outside fish tanks, but pools, fish pools?
Correct. They can sense from the chemicals in the water when they put their legs that there's predator there, or even if they do it, the fish will eat the larvae. So it's very unlikely. If there's any fish, when I'm in the field, use my dipper. If I get a fish in the dipper, I'll just walk away.
And how long can an egg stay in that format and then at some point hatch?
Again, depending on the species, some of them just can stay months and months and months. And then if there's no water and there's no favorable conditions, without hatching, and then when the conditions become favorable, they will hatch. We call those the dry, the desiccant resistant, because they can stay in dry conditions for a while, for months. Yes.
So do mosquitoes lay eggs on plants?
No. They do lay the eggs where they know they could lay their eggs in dry areas where they know it's gonna flood. That's another thing. Go figure. So they can sense the debris or the soil, but they know it's gonna flood, if that makes sense. And they lay their eggs in that areas. That is the only time that they lay their eggs without the existence of water.
So if I'm sitting on my patio, we've got a lot of mosquitoes that are buzzing around. They all seem to want to land, and they're a nuisance to us. But do male mosquitoes also want to land on you?
The only reason the male mosquitoes fly around you because they're after the females. Otherwise,
like ladies' night out at the bar.
Correct. And if you watch them for a while, and if you're familiar with them, I could tell from male mosquitoes, because it's frantically doing weird circles around you without landing, while the female has a purpose.
It's true with two-legged guys too. We get that.
So female eventually find an open skin area, land, but the male is just circling around you. It's pretty easy to tell.
Sounds like from teenage to 50.
Yeah,
right?
If you're working with them, it's funny.
So there are lots of products people can use to prevent or to slow down biting and to keep them away? Is there any particular type of products are better for us to use?
Anything that is approved by EPA, recommended by CDC is good, such as DEET. I personally use the eucalyptus lemon oil. I like that because it's natural and I see it's effective. Anything, like I said, the CDC recommended, EPA approved, and you know, by following the label instructions will be effective. Don't assume like, you know, I treated myself and, you know, it will last all day. It's just like the sunscreen. The labels tell you how often do you need to apply. And when you do that, it is really effective. It's the first line of defense.
So we see that lots of times when you get bit, you look at it and what causes it to itch and for us to want to scratch it? What's in the bite that causes that?
They do have chemicals that they inject right when they start probing you, so you wouldn't feel it, because just imagine, it is a great danger for them to come and try to blood feed because it's dead.
Yes.
All her genes are gone. See, being too effective, it may help, but how much? Is it 20%, 30%, 40%?
For the uninitiated who just will go inside, can have one of those things hanging up, and then the swatter, right? Mm-hmm. And it's sort of battery operated, it zaps. And when we've looked at what we've zapped, mm-hmm. I can't figure out if there's any mosquitoes in it. Yeah. It's some other stuff.
Probably.
That's there.
I was gonna say most likely more than anything else compared to mosquitoes.
And mosquitoes serve a function in the evolution of life. What sort of animals enjoy eating mosquitoes?
Believe it or not, there are some aquatic systems that don't have too much biodiversity. So some of the aquatic animals feed on the mosquito larvae. So pretty much not too much adults. You know, we usually get questions about bats, why we're not using bats. So because they're eating mosquitoes. They do a little bit here and there, but usually if we talk about them being in the food chain, in aquatic habitats, other creatures in the water eating the larvae, that's their main.
So we understand that it's mosquito control. It's not mosquito elimination.
Correct.
We just have to.
I hate to use that word.
We just try to manage it, sort of like our traffic. Just got to manage it and say,
yes.
Okay, that's all part of this whole cycle. People can find out more information by going where on the website?
miamidade.gov/mosquito.
Lots of things that people can learn about that. Good for the kids and the grandkids that go learn
Correct.
Like that. And we see a lot of people that work in the yards, landscaping people wearing those shirts. They're like boaters shirts. And it's cool. It keeps bugs and the sun off them. So people that are outside often are using that. If they go without, sleeves, you're going to get bit, whether it's a bee or a mosquito or spiders. So we've got 2 minutes left. So why don't you tell us how long you've been with the department and why you chose this particular avenue?
I started with the department 2019 in November. So it wasn't like when I was a little girl running after the mosquitoes kind of selection. I met a professor who was working with mosquitoes, and I always believed in mentorship. He was a great professor, and I said, well, if he's working with mosquitoes, I can't go wrong with him. So I followed him, and I got really passionate about mosquito control because I feel like I make difference in people's life, and that makes me feel happy and satisfied.
Would you like to tell us the professor's name, and would you like to thank him?
Oh, Dr. Parrish. Unfortunately, when I came to United States, I started with Louisiana State University, and he was my professor. A month and a half later, he passed away. He had a car accident, but I stayed in touch with his wife, Bunny Parrish, and she literally still, look after us after he passed away. But even I had the pleasure of only spending year and a half. I have lots of memories, learn lots of things from him, and each time if I see myself, accomplish anything, I look, I'm like, you're the wind beneath my wings.
And so often in life, we never know the effect that we are having on other people, and vice versa. So it's nice for you to recognize him. We obviously, you still feel passionate about him and about what he's taught you, to be aware of what's going on. And so here you are now, years later, sharing this. And as little or as much it might be with the end consumer, the guy being bit by mosquitoes, when you're there helping them get through that, you say, thank God, Dr. Unlu, she explained it to me. We're just going to be able to manage this, all right? So kids, let's put our stuff on our hands and our bodies and wear long sleeves. Doctor, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you having me here.
And
Thank you.
it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you for joining us.